Never seen a smile so big on my little old lady's face until I tell her I'm going fishing all weekend. Pack up all of my bacon, I make plans for 7:45, and I swing around, pick up my date for the weekend. Some reason she seems to please when I'm leaving. There's something I'm missing when I'm gone fishing. When I'm gone fishing. When I'm gone fishing.
Yeah, baby.
Yes, sir. Well, good evening to all. Hope everyone had yourselves a great week off, a great weekend. Nice to see you back in the fold. We've got most of our featured guests available tonight. It's going to be probably a little bit shorter of a show than normal, which will hopefully get me to putting all of the prize packs together for the fish off. I know Mike and I got to go and do the provincial prize packs, but we got to get those combos out, and they're burning a hole right now on the floor. But they will be heading out shortly. We'll be doing the tags. So all those who want, be patient. They're on their way. What's going on? Mike Howard's in the house. Nice to see you, Mike. Tony's first one in. Barry, how you doing, my friend? Glad to see that long drive home. You got home safe and sound. Richard Dunlop, likewise, right back at you. Sally again. Steve Shaw's with this. Thanks. Big shout out to Steve and Walt and the rest of our legacy members for holding down the fort while most of us were gone enjoying what was a fantastic week up at Orwood Lake Lodge. And if you were not there, if your name's not Sally, if your name's not Richard, if your name's not Barry, what was this past week was, let's just say, pretty awesome. Pretty friggin' awesome. It was just great to get out and enjoy a fishing trip. Had some unfortunate news. I have not been able to take the shrink wrap off the boat, so I found out that raccoons really like crestliners. The raccoon families, they're very prolific in crestliners. They love to do their thing. So needless to say, when I took the shrink wrap off, it was an ungodly smell and an ungodly sight. I almost cried. I'm not going to lie. I almost cried. What's going on, class? Nice to see you. Tony's in the house. Lloyd's here. Steve Monte. Chris Dillon. Nice to see you. Benoit. Good evening to you. Sparkus Fisher. So, as I said, what the week was, of course, our CFN 2022 fourth annual retreat up at Orwood Lake Lodge. It was stellar. Absolutely stellar. And there was a lot that went on that, again, you talk about perseverance. I know Big Jim's going to be coming on here later to talk about Buddy and the loss of Buddy. And it's horrific when, a family member, doesn't matter if they're on two legs or four, we lose them. They're just as much a part of the family as anything else, as any one of us. Yes, they're an animal, but they are a part of the family. And we saw it firsthand with Doris and Warren, who were not only putting on a show for us and being like the ultimate hosts, but unfortunately, their dog Wyatt had a tumor, and very, very difficult decision during their retreat. They had to go into town and put Wyatt down. So hats off to Warren and Doris. They persevered. They put on a heck of a show. Great host, great spread, and great memories. And they did all this while juggling all of that. And you could tell it bothered them, but it is what it is. Life goes on, and you hope that you have some friends that pass along some condolences. So again, to Warren and Doris, thanks so much for being the most phenomenal hosts. We look forward to next year, and I can say this because I'm really excited to hear the price is going to be the exact same next year as it was this year, and it's a discounted rate, to say the absolute least. So if you are looking to do a retreat next year, book it. Book it. Don't delay, because the spots are filling up really quickly. In fact, most of the people that we had up there have already said that they're coming back and bringing a friend or two. So there wasn't many spots available. I think there were 3 by the end of it, 3 spots available. So if you are looking, don't hesitate to book. They're taking deposits. Get it done so we can get your bum in a bed and see you next year for some fantastic fishing. A few notables that I'd like to thank, of course, Horwood Lake Lodge, of course, Doris and Warren at great lengths. I can't thank them enough for all they do for our CFN community. Everyone felt welcomed. It was a great group up there. I know, Richard, you probably would say the same. Yeah, it was epic, but just the right kind of people, like good people. And as Richard already said, he's got 2 friends already coming. So we're there. And if you want to be a part of a nightly fish fry, some great fishing, and just surrounded by some great people, I would have to say, and I know Barry and Sally and Richard might chime in here. One of the coolest stories that came out of this past weekend was this guy named Harold. No one really knew where he came from. No one really knew who he was. But by the end of it, I'll tell you, he was a CFNer through and through. This cat was very quiet, funny as all heck. Loved having him out in the boat and showing him the ropes. Fishing is something that he wanted to get back into. Hadn't done it for a while. Not really sure if he's ticking boxes for a bucket list. Not really sure about his story, other than the fact that he just wants to get a lot done in a hurry. And his wife found our podcast and our ads online, and she said, let's sign you up for that. So she wouldn't take no for an answer, and there's Harold, and he introduced himself as exactly that. I know nothing about you guys or the CFN. My wife forced me to come up here, and at the end, he had a grand old time, fantastic time. So I love hearing stuff like that. Yeah, it's an oldie but a goodie. Yep, our good buddy Red put that together. The Horwood Lake Lodge Ghost. Yeah, we had some of those. We had some interesting stories that happened. Dodging boats, dodging people, dodging baits, and a whole bunch of other things. But needless to say, it was a lot of fun. The first night especially, man, I haven't laughed that hard in a long time. That was a lot of fun. Anyway, but before we go on and bring on our beloved Jim McLaughlin, again, a reminder that all of the CFN swag is available at Fish Whipped Apparel, and I will bring up the website right now just so you folks have it. I saw a lot of big shout out to Babs for making all of those buffs, the ones with the small little CFN sticker on it, available to us, and we made sure we handed it out to all of our guests. Awesome to see that, plus the hats, plus the flags, lots of flags, CFN flags. That design that Walter came up with is incredible. So as I said, if you want a hat, if you're looking for a boat flag or a big flag, and all kinds of things in between that are up and coming and soon to be available, by all means, reach out to fishwhippedapparel.ca and Babs French, and she'll point you in the right direction. So a big shout out to Babs for that. Big shout out to Outdoor Flavors, but especially JR put together a pack for us. Put it this way, when it comes to CFN meet and greets, CFN retreats, OFC Nation retreats, wink, wink, nudge, nudge, there is no shortage of outdoor flavor coatings. We've got a big box, so we'll have lots of that for all of our cook-offs and fish fries. But of course, Big Ugly, they came up, Bruce and the Downs family, they came up with a whole satchel full of stuff. Anna put some great charcuterie boards together for our hosts, as well as Barry and Sally, because everywhere you went on the lake, all you saw was Barry and Sally's boat, because it had this massive flag that they were tying, that they were dragging behind it. It was awesome. Awesome. I could go on and on with a whole bunch of other things as well. But, of course, Ron Coloresi came all the way from Connecticut, so big shout out to him for being the one that traveled the most, the furthest to get to retreat. But, again, that doesn't shadow any of the others that did show up, took the time, and I dare say it was well worth the effort to get up there, well worth the trip in, and well worth the price of gas and everything else that's associated with these times, because I tell you, everybody needed getaway plan, and bait our good friends up at Horwood Lake Lodge allowed us that. Ed McKenzie, how you doing? Well, before we bring in our next guest, I hazard the thought of playing some music, but you know what? I haven't heard it in a while. So I'm sure you folks are just like me, and you can't wait to hear it as well. Coming up next, Big Jim McLaughlin. Big Jim McLaughlin.
Boom shakalaka.
Chakalaga.
Every time I see him take that step back from the front of the boat and the bowl goes in the rod, it's my favorite thing. There's nothing beats catching fish on crankbaits. Casting.
Amen.
Nothing.
Amen. Yep, 100%. And as I said, you would have had a field day up there at Horwood Lake Lodge with all the crankbaits that were being used and tossed and wetted and what have you. But yeah, it was an interesting fish, Jim. I think it would have for some of the fish that we were trying to target, it would have challenged even the pros.
How deep?
Well, it all depends. And funny enough, most of the walleye that we caught were anywhere between 27 and 29 feet of water, which is a little bit deeper than normal. Not
now, is that because everybody fished there, or because that's the only place you could get them?
It's actually a great question you asked. They are probably one of the more livelier schools, more active schools. They are 4 different locations in the lake that hold these schools. So yes, are they pressured? 100%.
Yeah, see, that's what a crankbait zipping by them will make the difference, eh? Because it's like do I or don't I, and they have to, it's a reaction bite, eh? That's why you see so many of in the walleye tournaments, these guys trolling crankbaits. It's what they do, They troll them through the tops of trees and all kinds of stuff. It's really, really cool to watch how efficient professional walleye anglers are at trolling. Like it's second to none. They're just as efficient with the boat as a bass guy is with an electric motor fishing a spot. But trolling to 90% of the people is haphazard. We go over here. Well, this looks like a good spot. Yeah, you're on top of the water. They throw the lure out behind the boat and away they go. But when you get down to it, you watch these guys. They'll do it. They're doing little passes. They're turning. They're going back and forth over things in all in the space of a football field. They're just. And when you look at the GPS trails at the end of the day, it's amazing how they troll like waypoints. Every time you catch a fish, they put in a waypoint. I think we talked about this recently.
Yep.
Yeah, they put in a waypoint and then they troll that waypoint. You don't have to have a marker buoy in front of you or a tree on the shore to look at. I came from the tree on the shore to look at. So
and I'll be honest with you, Jim, I do go back to the old school just in case the electronics were to break. I do line myself up based on, whatever it is. We've got a point, we've got an island, we've got a Jesus rock, as they say. There's all kinds of waypoints that I use naturally just with the naked eye to make sure that I am not only, not depending solely on my electronics. But if anything were to happen to them, that I would be able to line myself up, put myself on the spot. But yeah, it was interesting. The bite, for some, it was a little bit different. The one thing I did find, which was really nice, was that the fish were supposed to be where they were. It wasn't like we had to go hunting for them necessarily. It was
Really, it's been a different year, you know.
It has been, yeah, and as I said, those walleye especially were where they were supposed to be. They were a little bit deeper than normal, and yes, you could have trolled for them, but then you're getting down into below 40. And
did you see a thermocline?
You could in certain areas of the lake, not all the time.
How deep was it?
It was around, I want to say 15 feet.
What?
Yeah.
That's shallow.
Yeah. Yeah. It would hover, as I said, depending on the amount of current you had. But if you got into some of those back bays, 15, 20 tops.
And you could see it plain as day?
It was you could see it on the electronics, yeah. But it was only where water was not moving, because the one thing.
Yeah, well, that doesn't have, yeah. Very seldom do you get a thermocline if there's any movement.
Yeah,
it was water mixes, yeah.
Pretty obvious actually when when you're in the back bays where that thermocline is. But when you're out in the main lake, there's a lot of, as I said, there's roughly 21 rivers and tributaries that run into Horwood, only one that runs out. So you can imagine the amount of water flow that passes through that lake, that reservoir, if you want to call it. It's just incredible. But to your point, I think what is just phenomenal about the lake is that the amount of production, the amount of pressure, the amount of take that is consumed each year, that lake is continuously able to keep up with that. How well it's doing, I don't know. It was funny. A creel sample hasn't been done on that lake for a while, so I'm not really sure when the last creel sample was, but it has been a while. So I'd like to think that it's okay.
Well, how many years have you been going there for now?
5 years now.
5 years? Does the fishing appear to be
no
better? Is it worse?
It's same. It's honestly that was a typical August for me in terms of walleye. You don't see a lot of big ones necessarily in August, but they are out there. And the first day hooked into a beauty, and they're all thick, really, really thick fish. So they're eating very well. There's no shortage of forage, and most of it's on the surface. Yeah, it's you know what, absolutely incredible. But what are the most of all the fish caught? And I want to ask you, Jim, if you've managed to do this, because Jerry, if you're out there and you're listening, dude, he caught a unicorn. Not only did he catch a 24-inch sucker, but he caught it on a big O.
You like these?
I've never heard you being able to hook a fish like that on a lure.
I caught a carp in Big Rito on a deep weed line, cranking in about 17, 18 feet of water just after catching a largemouth that was pretty close to 6. And I turned around, went right back to that spot, and the very next cast I hooked a carp, and it was like 26 pounds or something. I thought I had the biggest largemouth swimming in the Big Rito. for about 10 seconds. And then I remember looking at Rocky and going, if this is a bass, you better get the net and the gaff. Like, it was a giant fish, eh? But it was it's just what it is, I mean, when they see something that they can eat and they're hungry, they may not do it all the time. But I've caught numerous carp over the year. I caught one rip jigging in the Coorthas.
Wow.
And he wasn't rip jigged in the side of the head.
Yeah.
The jig was in the roof of his mouth. All you could see was the head sticking out. So he tracked down a rip jig and got it.
So if anybody's out there, what is the most unlikely fish that you've caught on the most unlikely lure? And like a perfect example is, say, a walleye on the fly. It's not to say that it's never been done. I know I've never done it, but that is, that's a bucket list for me. That's
what's a fly?
Yes, sir. Now, the other thing, and I'm going to be putting this together, and I'm glad you brought this up, Richard. And I got to ask you, Jim, if this has ever happened to you. There's no doubt in my mind this loon was hand fed by somebody. Somebody hand fed this bird. Because every single time the Team Crestliner, my boat, came out, and I don't know if it was the smell of raccoons that it was getting, maybe a waft of I'm not really sure what it was, but this darn loon would not leave me alone. Every single time the boat came into the channel at Hardeman Bay, out comes this loon. He would, and literally, I wouldn't do it, but you could spit on it. It was that close, like it was right freaking there. And if you made hand gestures, it was like a dog waiting for the ball to.
Oh, he's been fed.
Yeah. So, yeah, well,
I would think, because they're usually pretty aggressive. I've been let know that I don't want to be out there a couple of times. And not be, you don't always see them, and sometimes they just pop out of the bull rushers at you because they're nesting.
Yeah.
They usually just lay very flat. They just go right down and let you go by. But I had one on Mississippi Lake one day that I didn't see. And I took a 3 or 4 steps back from the boat, almost went out the other side. Like I thought he was coming to get me. That was a long time ago, but they're pretty. But I guess when they have young, it's always different too. But I think loons are pretty well treated very well. People don't really bother them or do anything to them. So I think maybe it's one of those things too, where they're just, maybe once you get one to take a fish. Like on the West Coast, I've held fish up and had bald eagles take them off my hand with a glove. It's really, really cool. You don't realize the impact when they get it. It's really, really cool. That's a memory I just thought about right now, and I got goosebumps. It's pretty cool. Like I thought they were setting me up to lose a finger or something. I could just see them with me dragged up on the cliff with half a dozen bald eagles pecking at me, but
that's hilarious.
Yeah.
So Sally managed a log perch on a pickerel rig. Don't know what a pickerel rig is. I'm just kidding. Perch on a 6-inch Rapala.
It's like a Tokyo rig.
Hey, you would have been impressed, Jim.
Yes. Tell me.
Yes. Never caught a thing on it, but I used it. I thought of you the whole time. How you'd be, like one right to the moon, Scotty. Just you.
It's like this. Throw in the towel.
Throw in the towel. Yeah.
It's a good towel anyway.
Oh, that's great. George Morgan mentioned. Oh, look at that. Serious fish. Nice. Wow. Jimmy's got all the good stuff. George Morgan, Horwood Lake is sampled by the Ontario Broad Scale Monitoring Program.
Neat.
Once every 5-year cycle. This guy's on the ball, man. I tell you, this George. Thanks so much for that, George. That's great to know that they're doing samples like that on the regular. But as I said, when it comes to Horwood, I don't know. It's incredible. It's just an incredible fishery, and anybody who gets a chance that is looking for that fly-in sort of appeal without the fly-in and the price tag that a fly-in has, hoard your bet.
Many years ago we got the fly in the lakes that maybe nobody has ever been to, because we'd be flying over.
Yeah.
And the pilot would say to us, "Why don't you guys pick one? We'll put down for a while." And you'd be looking and looking, and of course, we always looked for a big waterfall, because it was usually always walleyes, with pike trying to eat them. And we've stopped at places and drifted around on a plain pontoon and caught a fish literally for an hour every time you put your line in the water. And there was no miss. Like if you had one get off, you just left it there and you got another one. It was that type of stuff. And possibly places that nobody has ever been.
So Jim, one of the topics of conversation that came up, and it would be great to talk to Jim about this, and I'm sure Lawrence can touch on it as well. But there is a lot of stuff coming out in regards to plastics and finding them in fish, and I believe it was either Outdoor Canada or OFH publicized the latest one, which I believe was a lake trout. That was
lake trout seem to be really stupid that way. They eat all kinds of plastics. But like I said to a guy one day, a guy sent me a note about it from the big Rito, and he got really incensed with me when I told him. I said, so that fish is really fat and healthy. He said, oh yeah. So I said, so the plastic isn't what killed it. It was the fillet knife.
Yes.
And he didn't like that.
No.
He didn't like that at all. And the fish's stomach was full of, fish. Was full of, looked like maybe like freshwater shrimp or something.
Mm.
He had all the stuff there, and it had a couple of Senko like looking things in its belly. So I don't know whether they eventually passed them through or what happened, but these ones had obviously been in the fish for a long time because they were all bleached white, like a gray.
Yeah.
When you cut open a fish to eat it, and there's fish in it that have been three-quarters digested, and it's like just white bits.
Yeah.
That's what all these baits look like, And I'm sure it ain't good for a fish to get that in them. But it certainly wasn't affecting them because it was healthy. It chased your lure. It fought like heck. It was fat. It's not that it was some decrepit fish that was all bound up inside from this and not able to function.
Well, one thing I'll have to reach out to Jamie about from True North is if his plastics, as well as North Shore, are biodegradable, because I lost 2 smaller baits to a walleye. Ripped it off the drop shot hook, only to be caught 2 or 3 days later, and you're pulling out the exact same plastic from its throat.
Yeah.
Now, interesting is the plastic went in showroom condition, got ripped off the bait, and 3 days after the fact, when you caught the exact same fish, those plastics were already starting to degrade. So,
well, I think eventually they do anyway. I don't know. So, you don't send me rude notes telling me that it's, but it obviously for the amount of plastics that people leave in the water, I've had people watch me at a boat launch emptying old plastic out of my pockets, into the garbage.
yeah.
And, like they look at you like you're funny, but it's what you have to do. If it isn't any good anymore, don't leave it, don't chuck it in the water.
100%.
When you eat your sandwich, do you chuck the bag in the water?
Yeah.
Well, some people do.
Some people do. Yeah.
But
100%.
I'm picking up garbage off the waterfront here from the marina across the way here. It's amazing at some of the stuff when the wind blows from the north, which it'll do tonight.
Yeah.
There'll be more crap and garbage out there. It's just nuts, because they can leave it on the dock or something, then it blows off the dock. But yeah, no, it's that's been addressed several times.
Yep.
In lots of magazines, and I would say for the last 20 years you've been seeing that. And I've never seen anybody show a decrepit, unhealthy fish from it. I'm not saying that they're not there, because, like I say, I'm not a scientist.
Yeah.
I know what I see, but
Science. Bait fuel.
What's that?
We use bait fuel up there, and I specifically did some testing of my own, in the sense that you would get on what you thought was an active school, put your plastic down like you would normally, fish with it. Somebody with live bait is fishing up front. They're catching, maybe every 3rd fish to your 1, maybe every 4th fish to your 1. And then all of a sudden you throw on the bait fuel and you literally catch right up to them. It was absolutely incredible. And for anyone who thinks it's a gimmick, you know what? Everybody's entitled to their own opinion. I'm not here to change it. All I'm here is to suggest that you need to try it. And
I watched one of the guys on the weekend in the Elite out in South Dakota on Lake Oahe there. I watched him take the bottle out of his pocket and put it on his bait. And like he wasn't doing a commercial or anything, he just had the bottle in his hand and brought it out and put it on and put the bottle back in his pocket. So when you get guys of that caliber that are doing it, but every little bit helps, eh?
Well, it's true, and that's what I said to everybody who's on the boat who had the time and took the time to say, you know what, Scotty, you're not too bad with these plastics. You can catch fish with these plastics. I said, can you tell Big Jim? Just pass that on to Big Jim. I need all of the brownie points I can get. But needless to say, what a difference bait fuel made when you threw it on. As I said, to be able to catch up to
One
those
bottle, when the first 100 they put out.
That's awesome.
I don't want to use it.
You don't want to use it?
No, because of
you should get it mounted.
It's the 8th bottle.
How you doing, Rob? Good to see you. Jim, one other thing too is, as if most of the folks have reached out, and as I said, I'm constantly tickled pink with this community and how we get behind one another when times are tough. And as I mentioned in the beginning with Doris and Warren, they had a tough go. You yourself are dealing with the same thing, and it's not easy. And with everything else that's going on, again, the fact that you're able to show up here Monday, put on a smile, share some stories, and a good laugh really means the world to us.
It only helps you.
Yeah.
It only helps you. There's no doubt about that.
But you said that you've had quite a few people reach out to you in regards to our beloved buddy.
Yeah, it was thousands and thousands on Facebook.
Wow.
And I mean like thousands, thousands and thousands.
Yeah.
I think there's been like 600 comments or something on the one thread. I probably got, like I said to you earlier, I bet you 500 messages, phone calls, texts, emails, because so many people knew Buddy. That to me is the big thing, eh? And we're Springerless now, but there's the two bad boys, or the bad girl and the bad boy right there, boy.
Well,
then I had best. We had a good laugh, eh? I posted this picture and I said a lot of people didn't know that Buddy used to use his ears to make left and right turns. He walks up in front of me one day and he's like this, and I don't know what he had done to his ear, but it was just bent straight out, and I touched it and it sort of popped, and it fell down. It sort of like got turned outside in or something. But yeah, no, they were a couple of really good, like absolutely exceptional animals. And the funny thing about it is, and something that got in my head the first night was that when we got him was the summer I did all my cancer treatments, the beginning of the 26 months that they treated me. And I thought it would be great to have a new pal. That was the worst decision of my life. Like, I mean, when you're messed up, you got no hair, you got scabs from one end of your face to the other. You look like death warmed, well, you are basically. Like Dr. K used to say to me, he used to say, he says, I just spent 26 months trying to kill you along with the cancer trying to kill you. But that's like almost 17 years ago now. And when I got the dog, I really never thought that I would be here. And he's gone first, So it's, I'm blessed for that. And that's why I have to get along with it and get out of it. But there was something about him and me. I don't know what it was. It was almost like he knew that I got him to help me, and he was always there.
That's awesome.
He was always there, what it is. The only day he ever scattered was the day that he cut me down in the stairs here, and I dislocated, or I locked my knee. It hyperextended backwards, and he disappeared.
Oof.
He figured, I got the big guy. I'm out of here. I give him a chance for a comeback.
Well, that's a good choice on Buddy's behalf.
He was mentally, he was 100%.
Yeah.
He just he was having trouble standing and walking. His legs were giving out, and at 17, well, that's the average Springville Springer is 12.
Yeah.
So he got a lot more than he was supposed to get. Got a lot of extra cookies and other stuff like that. So he's gone. I don't know if we're going to get another dog. Tammy wants a cat. I'm not up on that. I'm not fussy about cats. I know we probably will, but it doesn't mean we can't have a dog too.
Yeah.
I almost called Frank today at Springville there outside Peterborough. I almost called him and said, like, if I was to come there Saturday morning with some money, what can I leave with? But I'm not getting a puppy. I'm not doing that. It'd have to be like probably 6 months old, something that's a little bit older. I'm not going through that kennel and running out the door at 3 o'clock in the morning. When I was doing the cancer treatment, taking that dog out, out of the kennel at 3 o'clock in the morning, standing in the snow with him, and then he'd run. I'm standing out there in my underwear and it's minus 30, like with boots on, like stupid thing. But oh well, he was a piece of work, and we didn't take it too long. I see so many people, and I know a couple right now that have animals that should not be.
Yeah,
Like they carry them everywhere they have to go because they don't want to go through. But then when you go through it, it's just worse.
100%.
You're suffering with the animal. The vet even told me, and the vet knew Buddy. And she said to me, she said, Jimmy, you did the right thing bringing him in. She said, when you said on the phone about this was the third time he had lost control of his legs and was floundering and couldn't get up, and this time he was not happy. He was scared. He was shaking, and that was it. That happened at 6:15. Tammy and I were back here in the house at 8:45.
Wow.
Yeah. So it was just time to go. We weren't going to push him beyond, and I don't think it's fair to the animal. And I had to talk with the vet about it. She told me, she said they see people bring animals in there that they've been carrying them around for 6 months. They can't move.
Yeah.
Like that's not right to the animal. I understand you're attached to it and everything else, but you have to do the right thing. It's all about the animal at that point.
Amen, brother. Well, listen, I'm going to let you go. As always, the time flies, regardless of what's gone on. But so glad you spent a little bit of time with you. And as I said, if there's anything the community could ever do for you,
yeah. Oh, I know, buddy. I appreciate it. So I want a contest online.
What?
I felt like Sue Sponga. She wins every turn, every contest she enters.
Right. Well, we've got a few of them here that do the same. But yes, absolutely.
So I entered a contest with your email. It's the lad in Kingston, Limestone Lures.
Yeah.
And he makes a lot of plastic and stuff. He's a veteran. But is this a funky color or what?
Oh.
See the way it's got a core in the middle?
Yeah. What is that?
Now, they used to make stuff like that a long time ago. Look, it was called Bloodline back then, eh?
Okay.
Mr. Twister had it because it was supposed to look like a bloodline. But he's got that, and he's got it in, I think there was another one here that looks pretty. Yeah, see, he's got one there that's got orange on it through it.
Wow.
Yeah, if I tilt it, you can see the two different colors. It's hard to see on the screen like that. But he just got some funky colors. I've always been a big fan of golden purple and with green. This is the same thing. Anyways, he said this to me. I got him in the mail. I'm jacked. The stuff out the back's getting a little bit clearer, and I've been catching some pretty good. I've been catching fish, like in the 4-pound class almost every night.
Oof.
So they just took a while to get here, or they were there and I couldn't catch them because they were underneath all that crap.
Yeah.
I told you about the number of times I saw the frog go up in the air and the mats just go like this because they couldn't get through it, and the wind destroyed some of it here a couple of weeks ago.
Well, I can imagine.
Ever since then, it's changed in there. So
Corey is saying that is a core shot stick bait.
yeah,
Core shot stick bait. Wow, that's awesome. Right on.
just a mold that does 2 parts at once. You can see when it's the way it's got the little black knob at the top.
Yeah.
And it goes down.
Wow. Interesting. I've seen that
It
before.
takes a while to get good at this. Apparently, I know a couple of guys that used to do it years ago, and I was talking to one of them there just a while ago, and he told me, yeah, you don't learn to do that overnight. So
I can imagine. Jim, listen, you enjoy the rest of the night, buddy. Virtual hugs all around from all who are watching.
Thanks, guys.
You take care of yourself, and we'll see you next week, my friend.
I will. I promise.
Right on.
Be good.
Peace. It's tough, as I said, folks who understand know exactly where Jim and Tammy are right now. We saw it firsthand with Doris and Warren with their beloved dog Wyatt. It's tough. It's tough times, man. I've had dogs all my life, so I get it. I totally get it. Also, big shout out to, of course, Meigs, who provided a lot of prizes up at Horwood. And when we bring on our next guest, we're going to get into some of the nitty-gritty details of who caught what, how big, how much, and so on. So stay tuned to that. First, a word from our sponsor.
When it comes to Canadian food, we've got your back with flavors like lemon pepper, beer batter, campfire barbecue, lemon pepper dill, garlic butter and chives, and crispy Cajun. We've got a mix for every meal. Whether you're serving East Coast shrimp, West Coast salmon, succulent walleye, chicken wings, or veggies, we've got you covered. Coat your food in outdoor flavors. Available online or at these fine retailers.
Oh, that caught me off guard. let's bring in Warren. Are you there, Warren? There's Warren. No, Warren. What am I saying? Warren. What are we doing, Lawrence? Let's try that again. I got Warren on the brain from the last week of being up at Horwood. That's why.
Oh my God, you must be exhausted.
You know, it's funny. You are. It's a lot of fun, but it's a lot of work. You know, you want to make sure folks are having a good time and they're catching fish. And as Sally said, you know, everybody took the time to show each other what they were using, what they were having success with, giving up spots. So I'd like to say for 5 days anyway, CFNers taught the rest of the world how to act, because a lot of what has been going on recently, especially on social media, has been anything but stellar performance from people. But irregardless, it is what it is, and we find a way to persevere. And as always, it's a pleasure to see you, Lawrence.
Oh, thanks, man. And nice to hear your voice, buddy.
You as well. I know you've got a plethora of stuff to talk about in regards to news, and I can't wait to get to that. And of course, if anybody is looking for any of these new articles, please go over to bluefishcanada.ca or reach out to our good buddy Lawrence personally. But to get to some of the stuff that went on at the retreat, what was really interesting, we came up with a new platform on how to record catches. And the idea was there are several species of fish, as you can imagine, Lawrence, that are available at Horwood. And my idea was to only record the largest of each species you caught. So for instance, if you caught like a 9-inch perch and nothing bigger, you measure that 9-inch perch. If you catch anything smaller than that, you just throw it back.
Yeah.
Bass, pike, walleye, the exact same. And I'll be honest with you, like the first day, one of the anglers, Jerry, went out, caught 4 species. He caught a bass, smallmouth bass, walleye, a pike, and the sucker on a big O.
The Grand Slam of Horwood.
It was a grand. Well, because I don't think anybody in the 4 years we've been doing the retreat has ever caught a sucker, and it was a big sucker. That was a big fish. But he managed 73 inches in total.
Oh, nice.
73 inches in total. Now we have first, second, and third. So I'm going to rhyme those off. In fourth place, newly to CFN, a new CFNer. Bob came up. He was an absolute scream, just a riot. We had a lot of fun the first night with him. It seemed like every story came out of Buffalo. And I think he only lived there for a couple weeks. But I tell you, the stories were endless, absolutely endless.
Yeah. And
what really got us laughing is, well, how long have you been in Buffalo? I was only there a couple weeks, and all of that happened. Anyway, he came in 4th place overall. So of the 5 days, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, he ended up with 169 inches of total fish. So that's each day him measuring his top species, his top fish in each species.
Okay.
So he would have, you know.
Oh, I see. So he only got to enter 1 sucker, 1 pike, 1 walleye, right, but that was his best total 4.
That's right. Yeah.
Nice.
So 169 was his total for the 5 days. He was in 4th place, and then the numbers really start to jump, man. And you can really see some of who the dedicated folks are. Braden, who was all of 11 years old. 11 years old, Braden came up, and he managed to put together 246 inches of fish. And that's it. The largest fish in each species each day. You know, first day he was 53 3/4, 51 1/2, 43. Very consistent angler. He's 11 years old. Did absolutely friggin' awesome. And that was our third runner-up. Our second runner-up was, of course, Bruce Downs. Always love having Bruce and the entire Ugly Boys Baits family. Bruce managed 268 inches.
Wow.
Of fish. Wow. Absolutely critical.
Okay.
But our big winner, who managed, who set in a torrid pace, and he was new to the CFN retreat, so it was really cool seeing him win. But he came in, as I said, the first day, 73 inches, 52 inches, 40 inches, 61, and then on the last day managed 56.5 for a grand total of 282.5 inches of fish. Absolutely remarkable. That is a consistent angler, and he went away with a symmetry combo from the generous folks at Shimano.
So what was his name?
Jerry, and I knew you were going to ask me his last name.
no.
Yeah, I don't know his last name.
Jerry, the
Jerry
ultimate
Sneeze.
angler.
It's like Polish, I think, is their heritage.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can't. I knew you were
Nice.
gonna ask me
Good
that.
job, Jerry. Good job, Jerry.
Now, in terms of big fish, Sunday when we got up there, Braden, who, as I said, set a torrid pace, and he caught our big fish. And I want to thank Crew Chief, a local vendor of ours, who anteed up some incredible prize packs, which included each day we were able to give out a $100 gift pack to Bass Pro gift card.
Wow.
Courtesy of Crew Chief. So every day we awarded somebody with a big fish. And the first day was a 28-inch pike that Braden caught.
Nice.
We caught several other pike on the Monday, but Sally managed the 24-inch pike. She took home a Bass Pro $100 gift card. And then it was really nice to see Sarah. Sarah doesn't get to fish as often as she'd like because she's usually chasing around the youngins. But she managed to go out with Tyler and hooked into a 33-inch pike, which, in fact, on that Tuesday was the largest fish caught during our stay there. All of this you're going to see in videos. We're going to be putting a video together.
Yeah.
Then Braden managed to pull in on the Wednesday 25-inch pike. So that's 2 days in a row he managed to win big fish. And then this was awesome to see on the Thursday. Would have been better if it was on the Wednesday, but on the Thursday, Mark Walleye Wednesday Underwood managed a 24.5-inch walleye.
Nice.
Beautiful to see that fish. And last but not least, of course, the Friday, Nick, Braden's dad, pulls in a 25.5-inch pike. So not huge fish by any means, not enormous, but a 33-inch pike is nothing to sneeze at. And a 24.5-inch walleye, well, that's a decent fish. I don't care what body of water you're in. But if you're up north, fantastic to see. But to Meigs, to North Shore Tackle, to Ugly Boys Baits, Brown's Angling, who else? MFS and a bunch of others, including True North Baits and Impact Baits. They put some incredible prize packs together.
But the astonishing thing with all this, Scotty, is that these anglers go out with the goal of catching 4 completely different fish every day. Right. 100%. So they catch a pike and then they got to change up the gear and catch a sucker. And then they got to change up the gear and catch a walleye and change up the gear again. So you got a quarter day to catch a big fish and then you move on. Right. Because there's no point just catching a whole bunch of pike. You're not going to win it that way.
100%.
It's tough. That's tough. Man.
As you said, it was everybody liked the format. I think we're going to adopt it for next year.
Yeah.
It allows, anybody, as I said, an 11-year-old managed to bring in 2 fish that were the largest fish of the day for 2 of the 5 days we were up there as Sobalski. Thank you, Richard Sobalski. So Jerry Sobalski and Bob Sobalski, they're brothers, and they're a riot. They're absolutely a riot together. You put them in the boat on the lake and there would be no wind and you'd be laughing and they'd be hundreds of feet away because you could hear every friggin' word they were saying, just like typical brothers. Was awesome. Jamie, last day,
sound travels over water. Hello.
100%, yeah. Jamie last day caught a 22-inch walleye, but it wasn't enough to oust Nick Short, who got the 25.5. Now, the best part about all of these is all the prizes were given then, and now we don't have to send anything. Knock on wood, thank you.
Oh, that's expensive. Shipping is expensive.
It is, but unfortunately, I made the tragic error of not checking and rechecking and checking again. Moose went to bat for us in a huge way, getting our CFN retreat T-shirts together, and I left it.
Yay, Moose. Yay.
Yeah, Moose pulled it out, but now we got to spend a whole bunch of money shipping them because we didn't bring them to the retreat. And
but it's not as bad as a fishing rod. Fishing rods are so extraordinarily expensive to ship.
100%. And those symmetries are becoming very popular.
Nice rods. Good rods.
They are. They really are nice rods.
Yeah.
But yes, in regards to, production, pressure, and everything else that is associated with lakes that are heavily regarded for their yield, Horwood is no different. It is a lake that continues to yield an incredible amount of fish each and every year. And I just thank the Lord that we only go up. I mean, as much as I'd like to go up more, but thankfully we only go up once a week or once a year or so.
That's in your dream, buddy. In your
Yeah,
dream.
no kidding, once a year for a week, and we
Yeah.
still, as I said, we still are able to have a fish fry for all of our guests every night. We never have an issue with that.
Wow.
We
Wow.
ate a few more pike this year than we've ever
That's
eaten.
good though. Eat the pike. Eat the pike. For
and,
sure.
And I have to say, up in that cold water, there's no difference. And I would
No.
like to challenge Bill to suggest, or anybody else who has eaten pike, likes to eat pike, is there any difference in terms of taste?
It's just getting that Y bone out. That's the challenge, right? If you can do that, it's good eating.
Yeah. And I don't have a lot of experience filleting pike. Usually it's exactly the way Tyler did it. Tyler Brooks was doing demonstration, and that was a cool thing, right? Anybody that wanted to learn, you could get into the fish cleaning hut and have a boo. If you wanted to do the 5 fillet method, you just wanted to do the 3 fillet method, whatever your fancy was, if people were willing to show you, so that if you ever do get into a jackpot situation and you have a fillet knife and a fish and you're unable to do it, you learned, and people saw firsthand.
Some people say that tail meat is the best meat on the fish.
Bill, would you agree the tail meat in a pike, is that the best part of the fish? I would have to agree. I would. Mm-hmm. Oh, there you go. Bill's doing a fillet video. Okay, well, Bill, challenge accepted, my friend. I'm looking forward to seeing it. But as I said, Tyler, big shout out to you for helping out in a big way with all of the cleaning that was required, because there was, and everybody did. Like Bob, Jerry, Bruce, there was quite a few folks in there lending a hand. But at the end of the day, it's all for the common good, which was to stuff our bellies with some bait to go and some beautiful True North fish. Now,
so hand power or electric fillet knives?
I prefer myself the hand fillet. If you get a sharp enough knife, this is just my opinion, but if you get a sharp enough knife,
has to be sharp.
You can go through a fish just as quick as you can on an electric, depending, of course, on the size.
Yeah. How many can you do before you have to stop and sharpen it, though? That's the challenge, right? But if you're just doing a couple for yourself, you can definitely do it with a hand knife. It's when you have to do a big group like that, then that electric knife can save you a bit of injury, because once that knife starts to get dull, if you're not paying attention, that's when the injuries happen.
And I'm not sponsored by Cuda, but I will say this, a $29.99 Cuda fillet 8-inch, I think it's 8 or 10, I can't remember. I think it's an 8-inch fillet knife. You can't beat it. You can't beat it. It's
8-inch blade for sure. Yeah.
Incredible.
Nice. Go mark that down.
There you go. Yeah. So on that note, you have lots to discuss when it comes to fish news, I'm assuming.
Got a little bit, my friend. A little bit of news. I just pulled some out. We put the news out on my God, not that long ago. On Thursday, it came out. And so there's a lot of interesting, juicy bits in there. Like I said, bluefishcanada.ca, but I pulled out 7 or 8 interesting bits that were sort of in a theme on the editorial. The editorial, I interviewed the executive or the chief of sustainability for Navico. Okay, now stay with me here. Navico owns Lowrance. Brunswick Marine owns Navico. Lowrance owns Biobase, and we'll get to that in a minute. But you think about this, you got a company that owns a company that owns a company. Oh, by the way, Navico, biggest company in the world in terms of electronics. Ray Marine and a bunch of other brands I don't even know, but they do, the cruise ships, they do a lot of sailboats, they do fishing. They're the biggest electronic sonar company in the world, and Lowrance is one of those brands, right? And then you got one of the biggest marine companies in North America, if not the world, fishing boats and motors, Brunswick Corporation buying up Navico. So, where's this all going, right? But if you look and you dig, and I did some time digging, and I dug down and said, what do these people stand for in terms of sustainability, in terms of the future of fish and fishing? And there's a lot there. Surprisingly, reassuringly, there's a lot there, and that's good news. But it goes even deeper than that.
And are you going to be digging with a shovel to get there? Or?
No, I'll go down. Okay, so Biobase. It's a little company, obscure company, invented by a couple biologists, fisheries biologists. They said, look, if you want to, you hear about all these. Remember, it was really popular. Navionics and a bunch of companies were doing this. Share your waypoints, share your, record your data as you're driving around with your boat, slowly tracking it with your sonar, what's down there, and it's all being recorded your SD drive. Share it up to the cloud, and let's really get some really solid maps going, right? How popular was that? I don't know. People don't want to give away their hard work for free. They don't want to give away their favorite fishing holes. So there's all this fear of who the hell's going to get access to this stuff. Well, this was part of the technology. But what else came out of this? This is really cool. Is this stuff actually was tweaked, biobase to measure weed beds, the depth, the height, the temperature of the water, the health of the weed beds, and it gathered that information, and it only shares that with fisheries researchers. If you have to do a study on how fruitful is this lake, are there fish in this lake? How many fish? Is it a lake that sort of breeds a lot of fish, supports a lot of biomass, or is it a really sort of restricted lake in terms of nutrients and the fish population? Well, a lot of that is weeds, right? If you have a lot of weeds, you have a lot of nutrients. If you have a lot of weeds, you have a lot of cover. And having a technology that can measure that, it's almost as good as a creel survey. You're not measuring fish, you're not counting fish, but you're certainly counting really good fish habitat. And that's what BioBase does. And Navionics bought it. And now they're giving it away to fisheries researchers around the world, the BioBase technology, plus steeply discounted Lowrance fish finders to do the work with. Isn't that cool?
That is very cool. I love hearing stuff like that.
2 thumbs up, man. Two thumbs up for Brunswick and Navico. Not Navionics. Navionics went in a different direction, but Navico and Lowrance and BioBase. Yeah, it's cool. So I had the chief of sustainability on Bluefish Radio, along with the inventor of the BioBase, who now works at Navico, and he's presenting at a conference today in the United States, put on by our friend there out there in Sean, out there in British Columbia. He's part of that conference as well, talking about Angler Atlas and all that. And so, this is going somewhere. This is going somewhere. If we ever want to really know how many fish are coming out of a lake and how many fish are in there, and understand that relationship between sustainable yield, we need to know, right? And one way that does this, and I put this in my article as well, I talked about ZECs. And do you know what a ZEC is?
I do not.
So in Quebec, years ago, there was a lot of very powerful English typhoons, English-speaking business tycoons who owned private fishing lodges and had private fish camps and hunt camps. And it was some of the most, the best territory in the area.
Yeah.
And at some point, the Quebec government said, you know what? You guys make up like 0.00001% of the population, and you hold, to your own some of the best fishing and hunting in Quebec, and the stuff that's closest to the urban areas. And they said, no more. We're taking that away. We're calling them ZECs, and we're putting it for each ZEC. There's a committee made up of local people, experts, government officials who are going to manage this. There's 85 of these ZECs in Quebec. And you go in there, you have to pay a little bit, $12 to go in there for road maintenance. You get access to all the pristine lakes and hunting, but you tell people how many fish you're harvesting, and then they know how many fish to put back. Isn't that cool?
Interesting.
Yeah, every single lake and river all the extraction is documented all season long, and then these ZECs put the fish back. So they know, okay, in this river we have to put 3 fish back for every one taken out to make up the difference, because there's going to be a couple kills or something. Or in this lake it's 1 for 1, or in this lake it's 5 to 1. So these areas, these ZECs, and anyone can go and fish, or anybody. This is a sort of it's not a perfect science. It was developed sort of on the fly a number of years back, but these ZECs are very democratic. They're transparent. What's going on there. It's all documented, and anyone can go and enjoy the fishing and the hunting in these places. You just have to log in when you get there, and Bob's your uncle.
Big shout out to Steve, who's sharing all the links, including this one. www.quebecvacancy.com /activities /attractions _ Zek. So if you are looking to find out a little bit more, that's an interesting thing. I'd never heard that before. So that's cool.
I don't think so. We're going there. Bluefish Canada is going to spend some time there and document this and tell the story. I don't think anyone else outside Quebec knows this story in Canada or the rest of the world, right? This is unique.
It is unique, and how they deal with their hunting, how they deal with their fishing, and who looks over it, who's the steward that ultimately controls the land. It's very different from Ontario, and a lot of folks would agree that it's maybe better than Ontario, how they look after and manage their fisheries. Some would disagree that it is too monopolized. It's too controlled by one individual or a small group of individual certain areas. So there's good and there's bad, but I have heard a lot of good things coming out of the province of Quebec, including the fishery and the fishing.
Yeah, absolutely. They've got a lot of territory, but you go to New Brunswick and, you see these private Atlantic salmon fishing lodges, right, where they own the land and you can't fish on that river if you're not a member of the lodge. Yeah. I'm not sure about the drift fishing, right? Like in the United States, you can drift fish any river. It doesn't matter who owns the land on each side of it or under the river. No one owns the water, and you can drift through there. You just don't get out of your boat, right? Don't wade. You can't get out of your boat, but you can drift right through someone's private domain in the United States, in many states. I don't know if that's the same in New Brunswick, but just no stopping. Can't throw an anchor out. Can't throw a giant rappel up into the tree and pretend to be snagged for 30 minutes. They're wise to all that crap, right? They just drift on through. But these rivers move pretty fast, so you don't get one little kick of the can of the pool. It's not that you don't have much of a chance. So it's an equitable way of making sure people have access. People who work in the area, who live in the area, people who might have food insecurity a little bit, don't make up a lot of money, and want to bring a fish home once in a while to feed the family, right? So there's something to be said that, and without having to drive 50 miles around, past that private domain so they can fish outside of it or whatever, 100%. So, hey, let's take a little turn on this. Let's take a little turn because, I'm talking about Brunswick Marine. I'm talking about Lawrence Fish Finders. And, these fish finders and these side imaging, down imaging, forward imaging, this is pretty cool shit, right? This stuff's really rocking the fishing world. So I got a couple articles here that just are examples of this. The Pro Muskie Tour Trail PMTT. I'm not sure if I got the name exactly right. They banned forward-facing sonar after the Eagle River tournament because there was a guy out there. He had I think 6 or 7 transducers, 6 or 7 big screens on his boat. He's shooting images in all directions, and he's just cruising down the river. Oh, there's a fish. Drives over. He's aiming right at it. The fish swims away. He's just following it. 100 casts later. He's got 100 casts to that fish. No problem. He's just following the fish. 100 casts, catches it. Boom. Wins the tournament. How many thousands of dollars of technology he has on his boat? God only knows. Probably in the 20, 30, maybe more, right? Who can afford that? So he wins the tournament. All the other anglers are going, you know what? This isn't about fishing anymore. It's about who can afford the most and baddest ass technology. Amen. That's not a tournament. That's not. It's like if Formula One was just totally unfettered, or NASCAR was just whatever you want, throw it on the track and race it. Nah, it doesn't work that way. You gotta have some restrictions on the technology. Otherwise, it's just about who's got the best technology. It's not about who's the best racer or who's the best fisherman. So the tournament trail organizer said, okay, for the rest of this year, no more forward-facing sonar for the rest of this year, and then they'll decide about what they're going to do about this going forward.
Well, how interesting. And Steve, I did hear this, and we've talked about this on live before in regards to, are we starting to expand beyond what is considered usable technology, credible, or I wouldn't say credible, but fair technology? As you mentioned, it seems to be whoever could put the highest price tagged unit on their boat has an advantage. And with the forward facing live scope, not to point out any, because Hummingbird's going to have the same thing.
Oh yeah, they all got it now. They're all going
to have it at some point.
Yeah.
Do we allow this? Do we like that kind of electronic on our fish? I'm sure we do if we're looking for big prize money. But for the folks that are, just a show of hands, are you in favor of this decision to get rid of forward-facing sonar, or do you think it should remain for terms? I'd be interested to see what you folks have to say. But yeah, Steve, you're right. I did hear about that on some of the major bass fishing circuits, that they're thinking about getting away from that as well. So it is a discussion, and
it's a discussion at Bass Masters Elite as well, right?
Yeah.
So there was a lot of people saying that these guys are putting it on their bass boats, that they can actually cast out in front of their boat. They can spawn a fish, sneak up on it, cast out and snag it. And there was some accusations being made about that people were snagging bass to win tournaments using their forward-facing sonar. So John Cruz, who's the head of the National Professional Anglers Association and a competitor in the Bass Masters Elite tournaments, he did a video and he said, look, you're looking 60, 70 feet ahead with your forward-facing sonar. At that range, you've got an accuracy level of about 1 to 2 meters. Then the fish is down maybe 20, 30 feet in the water column. So you need to cast out 60 feet, drop down, 5 meters, and then hope that lure is, positioned directly behind the fish if you're going to snag it. He said the chances of doing that are so slim. So, okay, snagging aside, he's proved. I believe John Cruz. I don't think, you'd have to be working really hard to snag a fish. Maybe a muskie or a sturgeon, something huge, you could do it, but not a bass, not a round fish kind of thing. So if they're not snagging them, they definitely are targeting them. And if you I heard an interview with the young fella that won the Bassmaster Elite Series on St. Francis, and beat out our own, which were the Johnsons, was it? One of the Johnson brothers got beat out. He came in second. They both reeled in over 100 pounds of smallmouth bass over 4 days, right?
Yeah.
So the guy who won it, he was driving around with his forward-facing sonar, spotted a giant school of smallmouth bass hovering on a pile of rock in the middle of nowhere. And he went back day after day after day after day, and he won. And the nice thing, there's a lot of current in the St. Lawrence, but he could literally just position himself perfectly. So he wouldn't spook them, so he wouldn't drift over top of them. Just sneak up on them and position himself and then cast to them. And this is where they're coming out with these, super long, light action spinning rods with these small hair jigs and light braid, so that they can make these long casts and get the line down on the thin line, so it sinks faster with little resistance. So yeah, this guy cleaned up using this technology. Right? It's changing the competitive fishing world. It's changing.
I guess the argument is it making it more competitive, or is it just creating such a gap that it's no longer competitive for the entire pack? Because Jim makes a great point. You could apply this argument to anything we improve on, 100%. At the end of the day, tires are such a huge thing when it comes to, say, racing. Horses. I mean, there's an advantage that some breeders use that others may not because of the price tag.
But they put weights on horses to compensate for the weight of the jockey, right? So they and how many, tires is one area where the industry can have full-fledged in terms of cars, but how many spoilers and the weight of the cars and the suspension, and there's a lot of things that are really, restricted, so that these cars are very similar, very, very similar. The engines might be different, the transmissions and the tires, but there's a lot of similarity between the cars.
So Jim's argument, as I said, you can apply this argument to anything we approve on. However, a great example is he remembers when other anglers hated him because he had an electric motor, and they didn't.
I believe it.
I believe it as well. But here's the argument that I have for that. At the end of the day, it used to be called an anchor. It had a rope, it had a heavy thing on the end of it, and you would anchor up at a fishing location. Mm-hmm. What the electronics allow you to do is everything but the need to throw and retrieve an anchor. So to me, that advancement is benefiting the angler when it comes to the physical abilities. Like, I think of yourself, Lawrence, with a disability. with that electronics, you're able to now hold a spot by
Well, yeah,
pushing
like
a
my
button.
little blind fishing boat, I can go out in that by myself, man. It's like a self-driving boat. It's
There you
crazy.
go.
It's
So it
crazy. It
allows
walks and
people like
squawks,
you-
and I know everything going on around me. Yeah.
To me, that kind of technological advancement is a benefit. It's a positive. Whereas, understanding how to read a lake, how to read spots, how to read, all kinds of things that are going on in a system, the live scope takes that away. It does add to the boat, does add to, the overall fishability of a boat and catchability of a boat. But is it really enhancing something that we're already using? I guess that's the argument. Is our live scopes and forward-facing sonar enhancing what we are already doing or already using? And my argument would be there is nothing out there that allows us to forward-face fish outside of our own eyes and the ability to judge and read structure. So to me, I'd almost say I'd be in favor of dialing it back a notch just to make it somewhat fair. It doesn't mean that I don't like technological advances, and I think you should get rid of all sonar. There are
Like let's turn the lights off and go back to coal oil,
that's the
lanterns in our house, right?
That's not what I'm suggesting.
No, but I know exactly what you. But let's talk about it by what class of angler are we talking about, right? So, and I broke this down in my editorial. So I looked at 4 classes. So the first one is the guy who wants to fill his freezer. He's got some food insecurity issues. Maybe he's on a pension, just needs to get his 5 fish, put them in the freezer so he can eat that week, right? They're not going out and buying $3,000, $4,000, $10,000 sonar systems. They're not. These are guys that are in old beat up tinny boats with their old grandpa's fishing rod, same old. They're not going to spend a nickel if they don't have to because they don't have extra nickels to throw around. So that's not them, right? No one's going out and buying the stuff to fill their freezer faster. No one's doing that. Then there's the recreational angler who just wants to go out and, and catch fish. And I think about, a buffet, right? You go to a buffet and the first plate you go to, the first part of that buffet table you go to, you don't empty the plate. You don't empty that serving dish onto your plate. You take a few things, right? And then you move on. And that's what recreational anglers do with their sonar. They take a fish here, take a fish there. They don't need to catch every last one of them. And then they move on to the next plate. And at the end of the buffet, they've had a good, experience of trying many different things, but they practiced some restraint. They didn't eat until they were bursting. Not everyone does that. Very few people eat, that much at a buffet. They responsibly, they know when enough is enough. And I think a lot of people, recreational anglers, they use their sonar that way. They know when enough is enough. Then there's these competitive anglers. No, I'll save them for last. Well, we talked about competitive anglers. They want to win a $100,000 check. They're going to do what it takes. And if their sponsor, Humminbird, Lawrence, Garmin, whatever, says, as many as it takes, buddy, as many as it takes. You just tell me how many units you want us to send you out, right? And then, but they're only sponsoring one guy out of the whole tournament series with the latest technology. It's just tipping the odds. It's tipping the odds too much. And then there's the last category is the guide, right? It's the guide. You're making your living. You're making your living getting your clients on fish. And I see this on the muskie guides. They are all equipping themselves with this stuff because you don't do it. Another guy does. The other guy's posting these giant fish every day, every second day with their clients. You're thinking, who am I going to book with? I'm going to book with that guy that's catching all the big fish. I'm not booking with that other person I never see. You see him on Instagram once every 2 weeks with a fish. No. So this is a game changer for the guiding. When you're talking about muskie and sturgeon and things like that, it's a game changer. And that's where it gets a little more interesting in the discussion, I think.
So to me, what you're saying is that technology that is social media has driven this insatiable desire to need to keep up with the Joneses for
marketing,
lack of a better way. So if that charter captain is catching more bigger fish, people will have a tendency to want to book with that charter captain and not say this one because he's gone cold. And to me, that's where the technology of all this, I think, may have overstepped itself when it comes to social media. And it's all about a matter of the next fish. You're only as good as your last catch.
Yeah.
And I feel sad about that to a certain degree, that we're missing out on what it is to go fishing. It's not about catching the biggest fish. That's just the gravy on top. It's not about catching the most fish. That's literally just the sprinkles on top. Getting out on the water, shutting everything off, and just whatever they call that, just de-zoning, and zoning and focusing in on the environment that you're in, having a good time, enjoying the weather, enjoying the surroundings, people perhaps maybe that are fishing with you.
Yeah,
that's the more important thing. That to me is the passion.
But you're paying $600, $700, $800, $900 to catch a big sturgeon, to catch a big muskie. Yeah. You want to have that. This is a bucket list thing. You have one day to achieve your bucket list, and you're going to go with the one that can make it happen for you, right? You think, well, it's just me. I'm only doing this once. But those guys are doing it every day.
Jim says, stop watching tournaments, Scotty. and as I said, it's not here to denounce the electronics, because the electronics, when it comes to us ice anglers, at the end of the day, we're dealing with the elements. We like to be able to get on a body of water, check depth, check fish, whatever it is, and be able to get dialed in so that we can set up camp and then enjoy the environment.
Hey, I take my kids fishing, and I've got some really cool Lowrance Elite systems on my boat, and from what everyone's telling me, it's never been better. But you know what it is? My kids look at that, and they can see the sizes of the fish. They can see the schools of the bait fish, the bait fish balls. They can zoom in on them and see what kind of bait fish it is. They can see, hey, there's nothing below the boat. Why are we fishing here? Oh, well, let's move. Oh, here's some fish. And how come there's so many fish down there? How come they're not biting? Well, there's a lot of fish in this spot, and most of the time, most aren't biting. That's normal, right? And they understand that. And then we move around. No fish. Oh, here's some more fish. Catch one or two. Move on. The fish move away. So they understand now better, more than ever, that the lake or the river isn't just full of fish, an endless supply of fish. And when you do find them, they don't all just bite, right? Some might, but many don't. They understand this now, and they spend way more time in the boat fishing and enjoying themselves than they ever have before.
And to Bill Landry's, just to your point, Bill Landry says, I bought a live scope, and I actually catch less, and I have more fun doing it. So
absolutely, you're looking, you're exploring. You don't mind leaving fish to find fish, right? Yeah. It's interesting. It's interesting. I don't think it's all that bad. I think the ideas of dialing it back and trashing electronic and making it illegal. No. That's never going to happen. Never going to happen, first of all. And it's just impossible to even think that way. But I think, in terms of guiding and competitions, there's going to be some calls at some point, and there's going to be some professional associations that step up and make some limitations, maybe at some point.
I agree with you 100%.
We see the musky too. Okay, let's go through this. I got 6 points here and a little question for you. Oh, okay. So here's something on the West Coast. I was supposed to go out there and couldn't because of COVID, but a bunch of my friends at the Public Fishery Alliance put together a 2-day show and tell where they brought a bunch of members of Parliament and said, look, here's our selective fishery that we want, our marked selective fishery on the West Coast for salmon. Here's how it works. Here's sturgeon fishery. And here's a pretty cool technology that Peter, Peter Cron, this biologist, he's put $1.5 million of his own money into this. He's got raised another $1 million. He's taken a pontoon boat, put a trap door in it, added these sort of movable wings that go out as nets, and then you stretch them across the river. The fish encounter those nets. They're sort of funneled under the pontoon boat into a sort of a cage, and then he looks down, and with a net he can pull them out and say, that's a keeper. That one we let go. We drop it on the other side of the net. It continues its swim up the river. And the ones that they keep are the ones that have had the adipose fin clipped, so they're hatchery fish, and the wild fish go on through. And this is what they're hoping And there's a bunch of indigenous communities on the Fraser River that are helping test this, that have put some money into this, and this is their dream, that this kind of technology is going to replace gill nets.
Interesting. So to me, and that's just amped up trap net, fight net.
Yeah, it's a trap net. Exactly.
That's just what an old school trap net sounds like. But
a mobile trap net. That's what it is.
And to me, it's a wonder with pontoon boats being here for as long as they have, why someone hasn't come up with this before, or maybe somebody has.
I know.
It's a
Like,
brilliant
good
idea.
Good ideas. I like that for sure. Why didn't I think about this? Yeah,
100%.
yeah. So he's putting his whole. He's retired as biologist. He's putting his whole life savings, his whole energy into this because you live your life. You want to do something. You see a problem. You want to fix it. This guy's, man, he's a hero. Peter Cron is a hero. I've been following him on this now for 3 years. I miss it going out and seeing this thing work, but I will go out there and we will, celebrate his success and the First Native community to adopt this technology. There's high school students now building more prototypes for more testing. It's going to happen, man. It's going to happen. Those gill nets are going to come out of the Fraser River and the Skeena River and other rivers at some point. They will, because this is way more neutral in terms of its impact. Oh, wait, what else going on? Oh yeah, New Brunswick, Newfoundland, Nova Scotia, a lot of the rivers out there. Water's too warm, no fishing during the day, no fishing past a certain time in the morning, or just no fishing. The only place, Scotty, where the fishing, Atlantic salmon fishing is just really going crazy, Labrador coastline. You go further north, and the water's cooler and it's deeper, and the Atlantic runs, the runs of Atlantic salmon are doing just so well.
And we're seeing it on both coasts now, are we not, Lawrence? Like, in terms of the BC coast, more and more of the salmon stock is moving further north into Alaskan waters where it's cooler.
Yeah,
it can be said on our east coast. Yeah,
it's happening, man. It's happening. Everything's shifting north. Even to the north end of Newfoundland Island, where no one lives, right? But that's doing well up there. Everything's south, Nova Scotia. Oof. Yeah, tough days.
Interesting. This brings me back to the topic that we were talking about just recently in regards to electronics, which has me thinking. So Jim McLaughlin said, starting Monday morning, no electronic motors, no electronics, no braided line, and no graphite rods, etc., etc.
Just that's the way it was when Jim was young,
right? So I'd be really interested to see, of all of those on that list, what is the one thing you could do without? If there was any one of those four that Jim just mentioned,
I would keep my graphite Shimano rod. That's the last thing you'd have to pry it on my hand, man.
The graphite Shimano rod?
Oh yeah.
See, to me, it would be braided line.
Yeah. That's
number two. I love my graphite. I love all my Shimano products. Yeah. But when it comes to sensitivity, something about that braid line, you'd have a hard time getting me to fish without it. Electronics, if I had to, I've done it many times. Electric motors, that's a tough one too. But
that's a game changer. Like I was the opening day of walleye season on the St. Lawrence River, and I missed a couple of years because of COVID. I went down this year though, and normally everyone's dragging bottom bouncers and dragging jigs around on their electric motors, right? They're just circling around and swooping this way and that way, and no one's holding still. All these boats just swooping around like some sort of bizarre ballet. This year, everyone's spot locked, looking at their fish finder mounted on the bow. Everybody.
Yeah. And we talked about it at the retreat that you would pass by a point that looks very productive. Like, you know what, this is definitely going to hold fish. And then you hover over top of it and you see nothing. But, in the old days, you would fish that. You might even fish it for hours, hoping that something was going to come in. And what electronics do is it speeds up the process of you learning that this is not holding fish, and fish are not coming. There's a reason for it. Who knows what it is? But let's move to where they are fish. So it makes your journey, your day of fishing, just that much more efficient. So yes, I'm not about getting rid of electronics or even pulling back on technology. But it is an interesting. I honestly believe that we should be enhancing what we're already using, and that's where we should stand. But that's just my opinion.
It might even be saving gas, right? If you have to drive less to find fish, because you can move around on your electric and just sort of really dissect the area, you might be saving gas, and that's good. Good for everybody.
100%. 100%.
Okay, what else got here? Why are young sturgeon, the 1 meter, 1.5 meter sturgeon, disappearing out of the Lower Fraser River? And the Lower Fraser is where the legal sturgeon fishery is happening, the catch and release sturgeon fishery. There's nowhere else in British Columbia where you can catch a sturgeon legally. It's done on the Lower Fraser River because it was done as a science project to tag and track sturgeon. But the number of juvenile sturgeon has dropped by 71% in the last 20 years. Now, I have some people that listen. There's people listening to the show that have some ideas on why that's happening. And I'll just mention maybe 200, 250 gill nets, right? These sturgeon, juvenile sturgeon, salmon, steelhead, they're around the same size.
Well, where are these fish going, Lawrence? Where are the small? Do they know where the smaller fish are going?
No, you got a gill net out there, and they're considered part of the food, ceremonial, and social diet of First Nations communities. So and they're putting gill nets out to catch salmon and other, and fish, and they're not going to throw a dead sturgeon because it's not in season or whatever. It's a fish. It's a fish. It's their food, right? So again, more reason why everyone, First Nations people too, need to know that these gill nets, look, before we made them fish with gill nets, and we did, they fished with traps and they had weirs. And that's how they fished. It was selective. And we made them destroy those weirs. We made them take the weirs down because the salmon canneries on the West Coast said they were unfair. They were they didn't, it wasn't fair. So the government made the First Nation communities tear out the weirs and the traps and said, we will give you gill nets. That's what happened 100 years ago.
Interesting. I'm intrigued every time I run into a First Nations individual who, when they enter into a fish off or a CFN event like they did this past week, how they're not holding on to their heritage. They say no, we will play by the rules and we'll do like everybody else is doing it. And they never make it an issue. And as I said, I truly admire folks that are able to put aside that for the sake of good camaraderie and good competition. Yes, I could do things a lot differently than most, but they don't use it to their advantage. So
it's everyone loves to fish, and and I have a conversation quite often with First Nation people. Catch and release is a conservation measure.
Yeah,
it's a conservation.
So weirs.
Lot limits.
You're talking about fish weirs. You're talking about the fish wheels, correct?
Yeah, weirs, like where they build these walls that sort of channel the fish into sort of little areas, pools where they can't get out, and then they just selectively pick ones and let the rest go, kind of thing.
100%.
Yeah,
right on, dude.
Okay, hang on. Okay, here's a quick one. Hey, what was the fish we were talking about in Winnipeg that they were training people to spear because they were invasive?
Bass.
Yeah, smallmouth bass. So the Atlantic Salmon Foundation, they've been trying to poison Miramichi Lake to kill all the smallmouth bass in that lake for 3 years now. And last year they were just about to do it, and the First Nations community said, well, hang on, isn't there a better way? So it stopped. They talked to them, blah, blah, blah. And then this year they were about to do it. And then some of the cottagers on Miramichi Lake went and got an injunction from a judge. So the smallmouth bass get another pass for the year on Miramichi Lake in New Brunswick. No retinol and poison. You're still going to be around for another year. Man, those smallmouth bass, they got some lucky stars up their butt or something.
Okay. And when you're doing that, how do you target a species?
They kill everything. Everything dies.
Exactly.
Everything dies. Yeah, everything dies.
What is the purpose of that? I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm
smallmouth are evil, man. Smallmouth are evil.
Well, the walleye are evil too. That's why they're being targeted in the Columbia River. I mean,
and,
yes,
pike and the Snake River down in the States are evil. They kill them too, right? So,
but at the end of the day, I do believe it's called an ecosystem for a reason, and they got to find a way to adapt. But killing a species just doesn't make sense. I mean, anyway,
yeah,
wow.
This is a hot button issue, man. It's a hot button.
It's definitely not a conversation I would want to have with someone who is a diehard Atlantic salmoner and has put a lot of effort into it. And let's face it, some of those stakeholders and volunteers that do a lot of work for Atlantic salmon would probably be very upset with my nonchalant approach to why would you kill off an entire species to eradicate an invasive.
Well, they're not talking about wiping out every smallmouth bass in the province of New Brunswick. Just that Miramichi Lake, where the striped bass go and the Atlantic salmon go, and it's all really it's a tough one, man. These hang on, I just cancel this call here.
No worries.
These smallmouth bass, and the striped bass and the Atlantic salmon, you got people pointing fingers at each other pretty hard out there. It's pretty amazing. And I've talked to all of them over and over and over again. They're not having a picnic together yet.
So here's an example, and this is exactly my point. Depends on the species. Now, if Asian carp were to find their way into the Great Lakes,
now you call them Kopi.
Flory. You're right,
Kopi.
Thank you for that.
That's their new name.
My apologies. If you find Kopi in a tributary, say on the north shore of Lake Ontario, do we eradicate all the species in that system for the sake of the Kopi?
I'm sure some people thought they would have wished they had done that on the Mississippi River, right?
So, show of hands, do we eradicate an entire ecosystem of fish, an entire fishery, for the sake of eradicating the Kopi? Do you agree that we should do that, or do we find a way to allow nature to find a balance?
They do it. They do it on the out west in the Rockies a lot. To get rid of rainbow trout. Yeah, they're doing that a lot because rainbow trout are non-native and invasive, take over, pretty tough fish, right? And they want these cut bows or cutthroats and different types of cutthroats to reestablish themselves, and they want to push the rainbow and give the cutthroat a chance to come back. So it's situational ethics. You could say here, no way, man, but over there, that's everyone's doing it. It's crazy. Yeah. They drain lakes out in the mountains. On these reservoirs, they just empty the lake. They tell everyone, go in there and catch as many fish as you can because we're draining this lake in 2 weeks. And you can catch as many, keep as many as you want. I just saw this the other day in the States. And then they're going to drain the lake, kill everything, and start over. They do it. It's not it's the time and place. It's just it's hard to take ethical, moral stance on this, right? Because we also catch these smallmouth, and some of us eat these smallmouth. So it's not like we're PETA kind of people, right? You know what I mean?
No, 100%. But at the end of the day, if you're someone that has a background that understands, the whole cycle of migration and spawning and what have you, what you're doing to a fishery, a long-standing historical fishery, regardless of the invasive species that is added to that fishery, you're getting rid of that genetic strain. You are eliminating something that has been there for years.
Minnows, crayfish, and turtles.
How do you rebuild that strain once it's gone?
They say it comes back. I don't know. It's to me, it seems like the Nazi solution. Like the gas chambers. It seems like way over the top. But
if it's to eradicate the Kopi.
Kopi for copious. That's the
copious amounts of Asian. No, I'm kidding.
Yeah, Kopi. Yeah, copious.
Kopi, think about that. Do we go up to
can you imagine?
Creek and just eliminate everything for the sake of keeping the numbers of Kopi down? I don't think you do that.
Yeah, we do it with the lamprey. We put in lampricide. when they go into the rivers to spawn, we dump the lampreycide in, and something happens to those lamprey, larvae. It kills them all off. 90%, over 90% of the lamprey are killed off every year. We spend $20 million dumping lampreycide. It's just a funny name for a poison that was developed to kill lamprey. Does it kill other things in the river at that time? I don't know. Maybe. I have no idea, but it definitely kills 90% of lamprey. And if it wasn't for that, we wouldn't have the salmon and the lake trout and brown trout and rainbow trout and walleye that we have in the Great Lakes today.
Well, Jim's answer is just stock more largemouth.
The ultimate killing machine.
Yeah, the ultimate killing machine. Absolutely. They breed so fast. They will dominate everything they invade. I'm not sure if we're talking about largemouth there, Ed, or if we're talking about the Kopi. But yes, Mike, 100%. Once the genetics are gone, they're gone. I don't. You can get them back. I don't care. Anyway,
I hear you, man. I hear you. Like this is not something. This is the final solution. It's not something you throw around, And that's why the Atlantic Salmon Federation keeps getting blowback, because they haven't consulted. They never talked to the cottagers. They never talked to the First Nations people last year. They haven't done their consult. They just had a mission, and they thought they could throw their weight around because it's an international American-Canadian federation. We're little Canada. They're in the United States. They can just come up here and throw their weight around. Boom, bam, boom. Smallmouth gone. Get your stinking striped bass out of there too at the same time.
Well, that's the thing. The Miramichi is loaded with all kinds of top predators and big name species that it is a tough body of water to have an opinion on. I would not want to be asked, what do you pick? What do you not pick? I'd like to say it's a balance. You find a balance for everything, but
yeah. What do I got left here?
You got 5 minutes.
Okay. So Alberta anglers, all you Alberta anglers out there that are watching or going to watch, the Alberta Conservation Association wants you to take a poll, because they think hang on, let me get the stats here. They want to know what you think about lower profile fish, right? Things like, I have no idea what they're talking about, but here's some information. 80% of all the fish caught in Alberta are made up of 4 species. Okay, Scotty, you're on. What are they?
I would have to say pike is one.
Yes. Ding, ding, ding.
Walleye would be another.
Yes. You're on a roll, man. 2 left.
Brown trout.
Nope.
No.
Close. You're in the right family.
Maybe rainbow then. Rainbow trout?
Yes, rainbow trout. Okay. 1 left, and you'll never guess that. So we got pike, walleye, rainbow trout. I make up the 80%, but there's one more that makes up this 80%.
Burbot?
No. Yeah, I was surprised by this one. Think of Lake Erie.
Not perch.
Yes.
Oh, perch.
Yellow perch.
Okay.
Yellow perch.
Yeah, Steve mentioned perch too.
Yeah. So these 4 fish make up 80% of the fish being caught in Alberta. And they're saying if we keep focusing on these 4 fish, at some point, something's going to happen, right? Maybe we should spread our love around a little bit, chase something else out there. There's other fish. Go after them. So they're looking to build up this awareness through this survey. Suggest you take it. There's a link in the Bluefish News, and take it and learn. Like if you're from Alberta, maybe there's some other things you should be eating instead of these 4, or targeting instead of these 4. Not saying don't stop fishing these 4 guys, but spread your love.
Amen. Right on, brother.
I got 1 left.
1 left. Let's do it.
Okay, biggest fish, biggest salmon just came out of Lake Michigan. They haven't seen one of these in probably 30 years.
I want to say it's 40 pounds.
Yeah.
Was it 40 pounds?
Yeah.
Wow.
Chinook salmon, man.
Chinook's 40-pound salmon.
44 inches long. 44 inches long. 28.5-inch girth.
Holy smokes.
Yeah, baby. Yeah. Jason, I wish he was here, but he sent me an article about there's the alewife population has gone up in Lake Michigan. They're putting in more salmon smolts this year than previous years to make up, because they got a bigger food base. So are the salmon coming back in Lake Michigan? Holy crap. Everyone thought that was finished.
Well, you
Maybe
know
not.
what? I want to believe that it's got a lot to do with Mother Nature and herself. Like, I mean, obviously, if you eradicate a species because you've overstocked it, and
Yeah.
your population base of your forage has decreased to ridiculous numbers, obviously something's going to happen. If there's nothing for these fish to eat, something's going to happen. But does it mean they disappear completely? I don't think so.
Well, if they're not spawning naturally and they're only depending on 100% on hatchery, you can think, well, okay, no forage, no point spending a bunch of money to put a bunch of small salmon into this lake if there's nothing for them to eat, because that's all those Chinook like to eat is the alewife and smelts. Alewife and smelt. That's all they chow down on. And so you're just torturing these poor little fish by putting them in there with nothing to eat. So no, this is the magic of. It's amazing. People like Jason go out there and measure and study, and look, the alewife are up, 28%. Let's increase spawning, the hatchery input by 20% this year. It's just beautiful, man. These guys are like chefs in a kitchen, right? They're always cooking up these great surprises for us and never burning anything, never stinking the place out. They just always, it's like an orchestra. They're just music. They're making music for us.
No,
It's amazing.
Mike Howard is saying, isn't the record 47 pounds? And
Yeah, it could be.
It could be. I don't know about Lake Michigan. I think 47 might be a Great Lakes fish. I'm just not sure if it's designated for Lake Ontario or another lake, but
They say it's the biggest fish in 30 years coming out of Michigan.
that's incredible.
Biggest fish in 30 years. Yeah.
Now, in contrast,
Uh-huh.
the same Chinook, same genetic strain for the most part that come from our BC coast. Jorge has mentioned that the biggest Chinook in Oregon weighed in at a whopping 112 pounds.
I want one of those, man. They're the kings. They call them the kings for a reason, buddy.
Yeah. Wow. Incredible. Yeah. Well, as always, Lawrence, your time flies. Thanks again for joining us on Monday. We love these little snippets of information. The guessing games, it keeps me on my toes, that's for sure.
Well, Scotty, I think you sit a little bit straighter because you need a rest, buddy. You had a long work week and then making sure everyone was happy at the lodge. My goodness, you need a rest, buddy.
Well, it is, but unfortunately, there's still lots to do, and I love doing it. So for that, I'm no different than you. I keep at it. But as I said, you're inspiring, you're informative, and you're pretty darn entertaining. So we appreciate you coming each and every Monday and giving us that, dude.
Thanks, buddy. Always a pleasure, and thanks for having me on, you guys.
All the best, Lawrence. Take care, bud. So another week is gone. Jay, we missed you. Looking forward to seeing you come back on Monday. He is driving, so unfortunately was unable to join us. Big Jim, and of course Lawrence, who did join us. Thanks for your time, especially with what's going on in Jim's life. It's not easy to focus, or maybe it's easy to find distraction, and this is one heck of a distraction. If there's anything, CFN is a distraction for some. Speaking of distractions, we have the last installment coming up at Camp McIntosh. This, of course, is the OFC CFN retreat. That is the lodge itself. Again, we're playing this video with no music for the simple fact that I don't want the copyright. Now, Moose was asking about driving his boat there. I don't know, man. When you see how close this boat gets to some of these rock formations, I'm not sure I'd want to bring my boat there. Not a chance. But you are definitely going to catch smallmouth. You're definitely going to catch pike. I'm hoping to catch some walleye. I'm hoping that they're in the bay. This is right where the French River flows into Georgian Bay. And, of course, some fish fries. They do up a really nice fish fry at Camp McIntosh. Irregardless, we are really looking forward to getting there. That is, of course, the September 23rd. Let me just get the ad so that you folks, if you are interested in going, that is the ad there. That is the dates. That is the price. CampMcIntosh.com if you're interested. Tell Tracy that Scotty sent you. But for 3 days, 2 nights, $380 for any extra additional nights, $190. But that includes your cabin, your meals, a boat, motor, gas, and worms. So yes, if you're looking to join us at one of these retreats. This is the last one of the year. Again, we have been begging folks to book. There are only 3 spots left. Only 3 spots. And Steve and I will be doing a giveaway once all those spots are taken. So keep that in mind. Again, it is September 23rd to the 25th this year. Camp McIntosh, right at the mouth of the French River. Some incredible fishing. Probably one of the best smallmouth fishing experiences I've had was at Camp McIntosh. Not to mention there are some really big fish in McDougall Bay and everywhere else. It's quite something. So as I said, join us if you want to. There are still spots available. www.campmacintosh.com if you are looking to find out more information. Until then, we'll see you Wednesday. Mike and I will be talking to the folks over at Anglers Atlas and, of course, the MyCatch app to find out more of what great things they're doing when it comes to the science of fish and collecting our data and using it for the sake of fisheries management. That's Wednesday at 8 o'clock. So join us then. And if I don't see you, it'll be next Monday. Happy Trout Tuesday. Happy Walleye Wednesday. And I'm just happy and proud to be a CFNer. You guys take care. All the best. Enjoy your week. Stay safe. And don't do anything I wouldn't do, which, of course, doesn't really mean much. But anyway, stay safe. Dave, it's time to take us away, buddy.
Well, as much as I hate to admit it, I guess we've run out of time. So I've enjoyed it, but I'm going to do something I haven't done since season 1. Turn out the lights. The party's over. They say that all good things must